Hello, it's Rebecca here. Now, this is my take on why I don't like fairy tales and how I believe that they played an instrumental part in my unsuccessful relationship past. So just a little bit about stories to start off with. Did you know that when you hear a story, your conscious mind will finally take a break from that constant chitter-chatter? It's like it goes, and it relaxes. You notice that a child will listen without distraction, and usually we tell children stories at bedtime, don't we, when they're nice and relaxed anyway. So what I'm saying here is a story will bypass your conscious mind and go straight into your subconscious. Therefore, like a sponge, you will take it in without even questioning it. Now, as a trainer, I've known for a long time the power of stories, and I'm using metaphors in training, as they are great tools for learning. However, I never considered the damage they may have caused in my relationship past. Stories we hear as a child are often more powerful because before the age of 7, we're like sponges. We take in everything, often without question, and we probably heard the same story time and time again. And as we heard it, we've created deeply ingrained patterns and beliefs in our subconscious, in our energy, that we then take into our adult life, which then become the drivers of our experience moving us forward. So let's talk about Cinderella and how this story, or other stories like this, fed into my somewhat unsuccessful relationship past. I'm sure you've all heard of this Disney classic, or you'll definitely have heard of other Disney stories that have a similar theme. Of course, Cinderella lived with her mean stepmother and 2 stepsisters, and poor Cinderella had to work hard all day so the others could rest. She had to get up each morning when it was still dark and cold, start the fire. She cooked meals, she kept the fire going. The poor girl couldn't even stay clean from all of the ashes and cinders from the fire, and that's why they called her Cinderella. Now, this could have the underlying message that life's just not fair, right? She's clearly been abused by her stepmother and her 2 sisters, and we're never told why. However, somewhere in the story, we're told that she was beautiful and her sisters are ugly. So the assumption could be that because she was beautiful, her sisters were ugly, that her life was not fair. Then there was an announcement of the ball. It was time for the prince to find a bride, and all of the young ladies in the land were invited to come. They would wear their most beautiful gown and fix their hair, so it was extra nice, just so maybe the prince would like them. This is one way that we can give our power away to men. They might like us if we look good, are beautiful. No mention here of whether the women would like him, right? Anyway, as the story goes, Cinderella was not allowed to go to the ball until her fairy godmother appears and grants her the wish to go, and magically changes everything into everything she needs, like a dress, a carriage, some footmen. However, she's told the magic will only last until midnight, and then it will all go back to the way it was. So she makes her way to the ball. So this might go into our subconscious, that we get what we want, but it's only short term, short-lived, it won't last. Remember, she only got till midnight. Then she arrives and the prince notices there's something about her, and he asks her to dance. He dances with her all night. In fact, all the prince could see was Cinderella. He must only have eyes for you. All his attention must be on you. If he's distracted, it means he doesn't love you, care for you enough. Is this really realistic? Anyway, as you know, the clock strikes 12. So remembering the magic wears off at 12. She ran as quickly as she could, leaving her glass slipper behind. Now, picking up the glass slipper, he tried to find her, and he tried to find her everywhere, but he just couldn't find her. So he decided to look for her and ask her to be his bride. So you have to make a man chase you to prove how much he cares and loves for you. So whatever you do, sabotage your relationship, run away, do something to make sure that he has to chase you and prove his love for you. Ever done that? I know I have. he will only know how much he loves you by him chasing after you. So ever played hard to get, so a man will chase after you? Or you may have heard a man say that they like the chase, they like the challenge. Wonder where they got that from. And so the prince went looking everywhere. Yep, ladies, let's make him work for it, right? And all of the women wanted the slip to fit, just like at the ball, they all wanted him. So this could mean that men are in short supply. There's not enough eligible men. It's a competition, ladies. Men are scarce. You're lucky to have found one. These beliefs could go on, couldn't they? And then, of course, Cinderella appears and the slipper, of course, fits. And the prince cries, I knew it. You are the one. There is only one. Just one? Is that all? Just one for each of us? Maybe he meant you're the one I've been looking for who fits the slipper. But this belief that there is only one has gone deeply into some people's subconscious. Ever heard someone say, there is someone out there for everyone? Or, oh, I don't think he's the one. Or, I think he is the one. Or you may have asked a friend, is he the one? So what happens if a partner dies, or you thought he was the one and then he goes and leaves you? Is that it? It's very limited, don't you think? So what about reframing this into, he is the one right now. However, as I continue to raise my vibration, he may continue to be the one, or he may step aside and allow me to attract someone even better. Yeah, that's more expansive and realistic, don't you think? Believing in the one has kept so many women in relationships that have been no good for them or that they've outgrown. Back to the story, the prince knew that Cinderella was the one. He looked into her eyes. He did not see the cinders in her hair or the ashes on her face. I've found you, he said, and Cinderella replied, and I have found you. Yeah, well, he searched high and low and finally he's found you. And he's like thinking, yeah, I've searched high and low and finally I've found you, which is the hidden message that we have to search for love. And it's a struggle. It's hard work. It's an effort. However, for Cinderella, she didn't take much action after she'd met him, did she? She was at home and he literally knocked on her door. Now, this isn't likely to happen, although it's best to be in your feminine energy and allow, but you still have to take action, right? I mean, she was very lucky that the man of her dreams knocked on the door, right? And so Cinderella and the prince were married and they lived happily ever after. Happily ever after, really? So if your marriage goes through any challenges, it's not right, okay? Some will have this programming, and as soon as relationships hits any difficulties, some may sabotage it. I know this isn't the case of my last relationship. We hit a difficult time after 4 years of being together, and he did something that forced us to break up. I reckon he was running the happily ever after lie in his programming. I do wonder that. So in summary, stop wanting to be rescued. I don't know how old Cinderella was, but the only way for her to leave her current situation, which was really unhappy, was to be rescued by a prince. Very disempowering, don't you think? However, have you ever thought, I will leave this situation when I meet someone? I know I have. This is expecting to be rescued, which puts us in the victim of our own life instead of taking action for ourselves and making changes to live the life we want to live with or without a man. And when she is rescued, then, only then, does she live happily ever after. There seems to be a theme that runs through a lot of fairy tales. You know, you have a damsel in distress and the prince rides up on his white horse and rescues her. And you may be thinking, but this was only a story, an innocent story. However, so many women are running this unconscious programming of wanting to be rescued. I will only be happy when, or maybe you're a fully independent woman who's paying all the bills, working so hard to support yourself or your family, but you're secretly wanting a man to come and take all of that responsibility away. So many single women subconsciously feel there's something wrong with him. if they're not with a man, or they force or sabotage themselves to stay single for fear of being rescued and losing themselves or losing their freedom. Now, most fairy tales are giving us a message that we can't live happily ever after without a man, when the truth is, the more we can learn to love ourselves and be happy in our own life, the easier it is for us to attract love and the love we deserve and desire. We will be ready to attract in somebody wonderful because our life is already amazing, and this will be the icing on the cake and not the be-all and end-all. Now, men are also programmed. Fairy tales have also put a lot of pressure on men. It's their job, remember, to make us happy. And if we're not happy, they can take this hard as they aren't fulfilling their role. You know, the happy ever after role? I rescue you from your current life and make you happy. But is that realistic? If you were not happy before, then the happiness you feel with him just won't last, because being happy is something you are responsible for, and only you. The happier you are when you attract love, the easier and more fulfilled you both will be, because you're not looking outside of yourself for him to make you happy. Does that make sense? So why it goes wrong. So in the beginning, you mirror the good stuff. So very often in the beginning of the relationship, you're happy. You see all the good in him. He sees all the good in you. Your energies are a match on all the good stuff. And they're mirroring each other in a really great way. Then a few dates or a few months in, something happens. Maybe he says or does something and you don't like it, or vice versa. Okay, so now you're mirroring on not the so good stuff, right? The stuff where healing can take place, which is quite a big part of being in a relationship, healing, growing and expanding. So let's say it's something he does and you get triggered. You may not show him outwardly how you're feeling, but all the same, he can sense it. Something's just not quite right. Even with our thoughts, we send out negative energy to others. Ever felt icky about someone and not known why? So the honeymoon period is over, their cloud 9 bubble has burst. And if you're not taking responsibility of why you're triggered, then you'll automatically blame him and become the victim. However, if you recognize that this is your stuff showing itself to you, you can clear it from your energy and move to another level of energy in your relationship together. If you're blaming, criticizing him, yes, even in your thoughts, he will feel it. And if he has a subconscious belief that he has to make you happy, the chances are he'll distance himself, he'll go AWOL, and he'll stop contacting you. Da, 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 light bulb moment. I believe this is a common theme. Now you may say, but isn't that letting him off the hook for what he did? But what he did was irrelevant here. It is about you and how you feel. Okay, if he did something really, really bad, like he hit you or something, then you can do the energy clearing around it and let go of the relationship and the connection with him. But what I'm saying here is you have to do the work on yourself so you can also see the situation for what it is, instead of being blurred with the layers of negative emotion and beliefs from your past. The more you work on you and increase your self-love, the less drama and difficult situations you will attract. You will attract more love. This is all about your own self-love. The more you can be in a loving relationship with yourself, the better the relationship you will attract in. Now, it's probably not sustainable to love yourself every moment of every single day. However, if you follow the 80-20 rule, loving yourself 80% of the time, then your relationship that you attract in will be great 80% of the time, which is a pretty great relationship, right? You will also be showing up in that relationship, honoring your own standards, your own boundaries, full of self-love, and the other person will feel it. And you'll also attract in a man who also has that same level of self-love. The relationship is no longer working for you, and you will let go of it with love, instead of holding on to it with dear life fear, with the fear of not finding anyone else or having the belief that they are the one. So going back to the fairy tales, if you're a parent or a grandparent of young children, I invite you to look very carefully at the stories you're reading them. Fairy tales are such a magical thing. We all loved Cinderella, Frozen, and all the Disney classics. We all wanted to be a princess or a handsome prince. So damn you, Disney, I blame you for my terrible relationship past. For years and years, I've wanted someone to rescue me, to make me happy. I wasn't feeling good enough, pretty enough, it goes on and on. So knowing what you know now, maybe when you've read a story to a child, reframe it in a way that makes it realistic to them, or balance it with other empowering stories of how amazing they are just being them. Teach them that they can be happy now, so they don't fall into the I'll be happy when ... trap. We really can live a happily ever after life when we realise we are responsible for our own happiness. And that to be happy is something we choose to feel now, no matter what is going on in our own lives. The happier you feel, the more happy experiences you will attract into your life, and then you will attract in more and more reasons to be happy. Now that is the true meaning of they lived happily ever after.